All right, why do December home buyers get the absolute best deals and nobody ever talks about this? I'm going to tell you guys about the hidden advantages of buying a home during the holidays. I know you're like, Brad, what? Like, I have so much going on. I have to finish my shopping. I have to do this. Yes, and you might want to consider this because otherwise it's potentially leaving like tens and tens of thousands of dollars on the table. I will demonstrate why here in just a moment. But let's kind of counter what's the conventional wisdom. Conventional wisdom says that no, you're supposed to buy a home in the spring. Why do we buy a home in the spring? Because that's when most people list their homes, right? And so what you want to do is you want to have the most selection. Doesn't that track? Maybe, okay? It completely, however, doesn't account for some other factors that make spring home buying a little bit iffy. So if you love paying full price, wait until the spring. If you like discounts, you might want to get out there before the first of the year because of the things that I'm about to tell you right now. So what happens is that if you're a first-time home buyer and you're trying to break into home ownership, without perfect credit, without having a massive down payment, and without getting absolutely crushed by the competition, you want to think about December because of the following reasons that I'm going to share with you. Now, if you already know that you want help navigating this, you want to talk to somebody who knows why you should act, when you should act, and how you should act so that you can avoid making those big mistakes that are going to cost you tens of thousands of dollars, so that you can get into the programs that are built for you across the state of Texas. By the way, I'm up to 66 that I have found, FYI, for first-time buyers. If you want to have that conversation with somebody who actually knows and really gives a damn about seeing you like actually get what you want and have a home run versus just like collecting, a check and closing a deal, then there is a link in the description so that you can book a call with me and the team. Okay, so we specialize in Texas first-time buyers. This is all we do all day long. And we know every program inside and out. We find new ones all the time, as a matter of fact. Let's keep it going because this is important information, whether we ever end up talking or not. So let's go ahead and dive in. What is the December advantage that nobody talks about? First thing is that you're probably not going to have a lot of competition. And when there's not a lot of demand and there aren't other buyers bidding on the same homes, there aren't tons of people walking through that builder model, for example, then what you'll see is that the sellers and the builders become more motivated to make something happen for you. And so you'll see that there are the builders and the sellers who really need to get a home sold or need to get a home off of their books are going to step forward and they're going to figure out, okay, how do I get this done? So if it's a private seller, they probably have something that they want to move on from before the first of the year. So they want to relocate to a job. They just got the great job in Baltimore and now they're due on January 15th. Let's go, let's sell this home. Doesn't matter what it takes, get it away from me, right? That's a great way to get a deal. Just did a deal like that the other day, as a matter of fact. Divorces, unfortunately, often culminate or consummate kind of this time of year. And so we see people splitting up their assets. They need to move on. And so they'll often sell the home at a very competitive price so that they can get the doggone thing sold. And, if there are life changes that simply just don't wait until spring, and that's part of why there's a big motivation spike this time of year. Now, a seller who has been sitting on the market since September and still hasn't sold is very nervous. They are not getting to that next chapter. They are, however, paying a mortgage on a house that they no longer want, so they're pretty dissatisfied at this point. And they get very antsy. A lot of them just say, hey, I want to get this done no matter what it takes. That's leverage for you as a buyer that you just don't get in April when every seller is feeling really cute about their position because there's lots of showings and lots of buyers out there in the marketplace. And what you watch in the spring is that builders and sellers will come up and basically price their initial prices much higher than what they would dare to do in November or December. That's called throwing spaghetti up against the wall and see if it will stick. Now, in December, you also see a lot of people sort of take their eye off the ball. So the competition kind of evaporates. They're planning family things. They're going to events and they sort of forget about this home buying thing. And that allows you to go slip in there and be the only option for a smart seller or a builder. And that allows you to negotiate from a place of strength. Let's be honest. I have seen, this is a true story, I've seen buyers in December get accepted on offers that would have sparked bidding wars in March. Same house, same price, completely different outcome, even if they went in a little aggressively on price and whatnot. Now, what's the builder secret that expires on January 1st? Well, here's where December gets really interesting for anyone who's looking at new construction. The builders operate on fiscal years. So most of them don't close their books on December 31st. And what that means for you is that they still have quotas to hit. So the sales managers are staring at their numbers right now. They're basically 3 homes short of their annual target, which their bonus is probably tied to. Follow the money, baby. Follow the money. The bonus is tied to the target. So they're not sleeping well because if I don't hit the target, if I really miss it, I probably don't have a job on January 1st. If I barely miss it, I don't get that big fat bonus that me and the sweetie were counting on. Yeah. So there's a lot of things that they get authorized to do in December that they will not do come February. They have their armor back on and they are ready to fight, ready to charge rack rates for whatever they can. So I've seen builders offer things like rate buy downs that made a difference to the buyer of $200 to $400 a month in the monthly payment. Closing cost packages up to $20,000 or even more. Okay, upgrade packages thrown in for free. Appliance packages thrown in for free. Garage door openers, or garage door, the machine opener. Blinds thrown in for free. What do you want is what they're saying. What will it take for you? I just need you to pick one by the end of December. And that's the math that most people miss. So when the builder offers $10,000 toward closing costs, that's awesome. It doesn't mean that that's all there is to get. First of all, we might be able to negotiate more from them. Second of all, we might be able to pair that closing cost negotiation combined with a down payment assistance program that might be sponsored by the builder, more likely sponsored by the state of Texas. So don't think just because you see like one offer that you can't sometimes stack different offers to make a sweeter situation for you and your sweetie. Okay. Now, the holiday objection that costs people years goes like this. Hey, Brad, I totally understand that this is a great time to buy, but I really want to focus on the holidays right now. I'm going to start again in January. Cool. So let's talk about what you actually just said. Okay. What you just said is that you are going to commit, just like everyone else, to starting this process come January. Suddenly, everyone and their brother has that same New Year's resolution. I'm not going to pay this old landlord, any more money. No more $2,500 a month, not for me. We're going to do it this time. So what happens is that especially as tax refunds start to come in earlier and earlier, like we see a lot of people jumping out there in January with the same idea. Is that good for you as a buyer, or is that bad for you as a fellow buyer? Obviously, it's not great if all the buyers jump at once, and that tends to be what happens. That flood of people start pulling their credits, which is going to affect their scores for the next 30 to 60 days. They're going to start shopping without being pre-approved because they don't do this the right way, like you're going to do it the right way. They start competing for the same limited winter inventory. And so everybody kind of has the same idea, but they don't really have a plan, right? And so what you have instead is you have a situation where you've started the process in December. You've already been pre-approved. You know exactly what you qualify for, and you're already working with a lender who ran your real numbers, your real credit scores. Because I don't know if I've told you this before. You may have heard me say it. The thing that you get in your pocket, the Credit Karma or the Experian app, whatever that number is that you get on your credit card for free about your credit score, that is not at all the credit score that will be used to judge your financial situation when it comes to getting a mortgage. It's completely the wrong formula, and you cannot judge your credit based on what you get back on Credit Karma. I'm really sorry. Okay. If you want to know how to do that, I'm happy to explain that to you later. Now, what happens is if you started all of this process, like kind of going through the motions of getting pre-approved and learning about programs, figuring out which neighborhoods look interesting, you can be contracting and closing when those guys are just now thinking about getting their stuff together. Okay. So December, getting active in December doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get keys in December, because I know that's too much for you to throw together by New Year's. It does mean that you can take these steps that will allow you to get out in front of a lot of the big price increases and whatnot come closing in January. So the real cost of waiting that you're looking at, it's kind of wild because, you're paying rent every single month that builds no equity. So let's just say that that's like $1,800 a month. That's $21,600 per year that's going to building your landlord's wealth instead of yours. But here's what really kind of makes me nuts about the I'll wait decision, which isn't a decision at all. Interest rates are really unpredictable. Programs change, they get defunded, they go away. The perfect house that you found in December might not be there in March, and if it is, it might cost 30 grand more. Now you don't qualify for the damn thing. So when I've had families that come to me in April saying, we should have taken your advice and done this thing in December. Well, now we have higher prices. We have lots more competition. We have lower closing costs concessions, which means that you pay more out of your own pocket. And maybe it's not even doable anymore for you. That is a really, really tough conversation. I'm not looking forward to having it with you guys. It will inevitably come up as some of you decide not to take action. Okay. Now, part 4, what should December buyers do this week? Well, we've got a checklist, and we can include a link to this checklist down in the comments or the description of the video. You can go ahead and start jumping on what some of your numbers look like. You can find out, what your real credit scores look like. So not Credit Karma, not the free app. I've seen people who think that they have a 720. They're very proud, understandably, because they think they've kept their nose clean. We look at their mortgage credit score and it's a 658. Usually it's like a 25-point swing or so, but I've seen it be much bigger, which is kind of nuts. And I'll tell you, that's not a fun moment whenever I have to tell someone, no, ma'am, you don't have a 720, not in the real world mortgage credit scores. Credit Karma, they're using what's called a FICO 8 version of the formula, and that's good for qualifying you for a credit card. Those instant approval things, or like, getting Klarna or Afterpay, that's what they would use as a FICO 8. But when we see mortgage applications go through, they only use FICO 4s. That might change later in 2026. They may go to an even more complicated formula, which is basically a FICO 10 or something. Right now, let's just focus on the fact that there is a big difference between what the score is that comes up on your phone versus what you would actually use to qualify for a mortgage. But we can get that score. We can even do it for free. Now, you also need to know what your timeline options are. So getting started in December, like I said earlier, doesn't mean that you have to move by the end of the year. It means that you're starting the process, getting all of your ducks in a row. And so what you would do is start picking out neighborhoods, start getting, anything off of your credit report that's incorrect so that we can have the best score as we go to contract, get the best interest rate, all that stuff. And also you need to understand your program eligibility. This does take a little while because there's a lot of programs to sift through. There's over 60 programs in the state of Texas for first-time home buyers. Now, most agents have never even heard of 3 to maybe 5 of those, right? And so most lenders push whatever product is going to make them the most money. It's up to you to make sure that you are educated on the programs that are out there for you. Nobody's going to do it for you unless you align with somebody who is a nerd like me and does first-time homebuyer programs and thinks they're fun, eats them for breakfast. Now, what's the big family question? I'm going to end with this because I think it's important. Here we are in the next few weeks. You're probably going to be sitting at a big table at mama's house, at auntie's house, whatever. Somebody's going to ask you, hey, so when are y'all going to buy a house? And there's something about that question. It's a little bit loaded. There's a tiny bit of pressure. And it's often asked by someone who frankly bought their house 20, 30, 40 years ago, got it for $1, and is now crossed arms, folded in judgment, wondering why those kids don't have a yard yet. Why are you still renting? Why are you throwing money away? And they don't understand the realities of today, right? So what if, though, next year, Christmas is at your house? What if you're hosting this time next year? And, I think if you go a step further and really let this be 3D Technicolor in terms of your visioning of the thing, can you see your kiddos or your nieces and nephews running around your backyard? What if you're showing people around your house instead of being toured around your, auntie's sunroom for the 3rd time? What if you are having dinner in your dining room? Close your eyes and picture that. Everybody's scooting the chairs to get the turkey on the table, and everybody's running around the kitchen, your big, new, nice kitchen, white cabinets, white countertops, and it's got your name on it. And everybody's going, wow, your house is so nice. And what they're really saying is, look what you did. Look what you did for you, but look what you did for us by furthering the family's legacy. Isn't that awesome? And you can you can start working on this now. So that house is completely decorated and ready to go, and all the napkins are in the drawers and the forks are on the table. And so that you are ready to put this out there to the world when next Christmas or next holidays roll around. When they are asking you that question, it's because they want to help you. They want to push you forward, but it feels loaded because you're already pushing yourself. There's this whole thing where it's not just about a house. It's about what home ownership represents to us, what it represents for working families in particular who have been told for way too long that, hey, you can't afford this, or that maybe your credit isn't good enough, or you're going to have to wait until you make more money. I'm going to call BS on all of that. First time buyers aren't pains in the ass. Okay. A lot of realtors think they are. That's why they don't want to deal with first time buyers. The price points are lower. Sure. Profit's a little skinnier. Does it take a little bit more education and a lot of questioning and a lot of nerves versus somebody who's bought 3 homes in their lifetime? Yeah, sure. It does. But it's also very rewarding. My first time home buyers are precious. They're a tiny bit nervous, but they're worthy of someone who will put on the cape and help them figure this all out. Now, if that resonates with you, and if you want someone in your corner who actually cares about getting you the keys instead of just closing a deal, making a sale, then I have put a link in the description. I want you to go check out Jalen's testimonial. Jalen's awesome when he talks about how he didn't know where to start, but how we and the webinar were able to help him kind of get unstuck. And he taped this testimonial from his back porch. In the testimonial video, you'll see his big yard in the back as well. And it's his. It's all his and his wife's Kiwi. It's theirs. Nobody can take it away from them. And so, what I want you to do is click the link that's in the YouTube description, the video description down here. Go watch it. See for yourself what kind of transformation happened in just a few months for them. What I'll tell you is that December buyers don't wait for perfect conditions. They don't wait for the best weather. They're creating their own weather. They're creating their own advantages. So now let's go pull your real credit scores. Let's figure out what programs you can qualify for, and let's stop making your landlord rich by paying their mortgage. And instead, let's start paying on your own. Okay? Happy holidays.